Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and I will be your host today. And it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here. But what makes it even more special is the fact that it is indeed Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve to all of you. I hope you guys all have some wonderful Christmas plans with friends, family, maybe just relaxing, kicking back, and having a good time. Whatever having a great holiday season means to you, I hope you guys get that. So, you know, I was going to take the day off, but I thought, you know what? I'm still home. I'm heading to the airport a little bit later today. Ann and I are going to fly back to Canada for the holidays. I'm looking forward to being there. And then we're going to be in Canada till just after New Year's. And then we're going to fly out to the Boston and Rhode Island area. And we're going to be there for about a week or so as Ann does some work out there for her work. And I just thought I'd go with her. And then I'll be back in studio. This is going to be the last live John Campea show from this studio that I do for the next 2 to 3 weeks. All the other John Campea shows from here on out for the next 2 to 3 weeks are going to be on the road, whether it's up at the Campea Ranch in Canada or from the Omni Hotel in Rhode Island. I'm not even sure which state it's in. Anyway, from Rhode Island. So that's what's going to be going on there. Hey, listen, guys, here's how today's going to go. I just thought we would take, since, you know, there's not a lot of movie news going around per se, today's going to be an all-live question show. So all stuff that you guys who are joining me here on this Christmas Eve want to talk about, that's what we're going to talk about. So there's going to be 2 ways to get live questions on here today, and I'm sure we're going to have time to get to both. Way number 1 that guarantees your question will be on here is to use the super chat, so that'll do it. But we're also going to have time today for Twitter questions as well. I mean, I won't be able to get to all the Twitter questions, but if you want to take a chance to set in a Twitter, hop on Twitter and just simply tweet to me at John Campea, and I will get to as many tweets as I can. But of course, there are 2 different ways to do it. All right. Now, before we get to the live questions, the box office numbers just came out for this weekend. Now, if you remember, the other day, I did a little video that I called 3 or 4 reasons why Star Wars The Last Jedi will drop 60+% on its second weekend. And I laid out 4 reasons that I thought were very rational reasons as to why we could expect it to drop 60+%, between 60 and 70%. It's just made too much money on its opening weekend. It would have to have an unbelievable second weekend to do it. There's some negative backlash out there, and it's opening against a lot of competition. Now, what makes this film different than a lot of films is that this film, very few films ever have to face this. This film opened against 5 brand new wide release films this week. 5 of them. All of them having star recognition in them. Some of them not so much, but they all have some star recognition. So this weekend opening was Father Figures with Ed Helms and Owen Wilson, which, I mean, let's face it, none of us are interested in that, but it's a big thing and it made some money opening weekend. Matt Damon's Downsizing went wide release this weekend. The Greatest Showman went wide release this weekend. Pitch Perfect 3 went wide release this weekend. And the new Dwayne Johnson film, Jumanji, all went wide this weekend. So that's 5 wide release films that was going to have to contend that. You put that up against, I mean, you pair that up with the fact that it has some negative backlash. You compare that up with the fact that it needed to make a whole lot of money. So listen, at the end of the day, Star Wars The Last Jedi made $68.4 million this second weekend. To put that in context, that is the 13th biggest second weekend in film history. It also represents exactly what I said was going to happen. It represents a 68% drop from weekend number 1. And that's, I think, completely to be expected. That's why I made the video earlier this week saying, look, this is going to take a 60+% drop because of these 4 reasons. It's totally expected. Now, I know a lot of people were very optimistic and saying, but John, you know, it's going to have more legs than you think and blah, blah, blah. And it's going to have legs. It's going to make money. I mean, it's already made, on its second weekend, it's made $725 million. Put that into context. Justice League, after, I don't know, a month and a half, isn't even going to hit $650 million in total. This movie has made $720+ million in like day 9, day 10, day 9, I think. You know, day 10. It's made $725 million. So it's doing huge bank, and it fell exactly the amount that I said it was going to drop, between 60 and 70%. And there we are. So I don't think anybody should be A, surprised by that. I don't think anybody, B, should be all that discouraged by it. Again, it's like the 13th all-time largest second weekend in film history. It's made a huge amount of money already. All that kind of stuff. But look, I told you guys last week, this is what was going to happen. There's just too many things were stacked against it. Not to mention the fact that you have 5 major wide release films. Like, that's unprecedented for a film like this to go into its second weekend against 5 major films all opening up on the same weekend. Of course it was going to take a drop. You combine that with the fact that it made so much opening weekend. Of course it was going to take a drop. You combine that with the fact that there's very vocal negative backlash against it. Of course it's going to take a drop. We had to expect this. And that's why I made that video earlier this week about the 4 reasons that it would drop over 60%, and here we are. There's some misinformation going on out there. They're saying it took a 77% drop. Look, the drop on the initial Friday, what people were quoting, and they thought they were quoting the overall weekend number, and they weren't. What people were quoting was a reported number of how big of a drop its Friday took. The Friday drop is always the most significant drop number. But you don't take it in isolation, you take it with the whole weekend. So did it take like a 77% drop on the Friday? I think it did, if I remember the reports correctly. But that's irrelevant. It's really you take the whole weekend, and the whole weekend turned out to be a 68% drop. So 68.5, something like that. So it's right exactly where I said it was going to be. So there you have it. I don't think anybody should be surprised. So you guys going to go out to see any movies this weekend? I know I'm going to run out and see one today before we go to the airport. And then we're probably going to see a bunch of movies when we go to Canada. It is a new Christmas tradition for the Campea family when I get out there, because my mom is the one who introduced me to Star Wars. So when I get out there now that we have Star Wars movies coming out every Christmas, what we do is when I go out there, I take my family to go see the Star Wars movies. So we did that with The Force Awakens. We did it with Rogue One last year. We'll do it with The Last Jedi this year. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Visiting my favorite movie theater, which is out there. It's going to be great. Okay, with that out of the way, let's jump into the live questions. We've already got a bunch of them coming in here. So let's get started with the live questions and the things that you guys want to talk about today. And we'll go on this one. SSX Envy writes, thoughts on one of my favorites, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. What's there to say? It's a great movie. Jim Carrey, I think, was a revelation to a lot of people with that. I think even though he was already a star, per se, I think that was the movie that probably convinced a lot of people about what kind of range he really had. He wasn't just the clown, and he's a brilliant clown. And I mean that in the most positive of ways. Good Canadian kid. But I think people realized that was a movie where some people already realized he was more than that. I think this was the movie that convinced the vast majority of people. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at here. So, I mean, I really enjoy the film. I thought it was great. And I know a lot of people, really love that film, and it stands the test of time with a lot of people. It stands the test of time with a lot of people. All right, let's move on to the next one. And the next one comes us to, do you go to church for Christmas Eve service? No, I haven't gone to church for Christmas Eve service for a lot of years. Christmas Eve, I mean, it's a pain in the ass. Christmas Eve, I just like to stay at home with family. I know that, Anne's family likes to go to Christmas Eve. I know a lot of people like to go to Christmas Eve service. That's great. Christmas Eve is the night I like to just stay at home and relax with my family, and that's what I like to do. So anyway, that's just the way I kind of handle Christmas Eve. Let's see. Creative Channel writes, are you excited for Shane Black's The Predator? I want to be careful. Do I have some excitement for it? Yes. Am I really curious to see it? Yes, because I'm a big fan of Shane Black. I don't know that I'd say I'm excited for Predator. I'm very curious to see it. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but it's not like, Infinity War, where I'm like really excited to see it. It's not like that, but I am really curious to see it. I am anticipating the film, but I wouldn't say, it's in my top 5 most anticipated films of 2018 list, but it's Shane Black. So since it's Shane Black, my expectations are kind of high. So we'll go into it with my fingers crossed. All right. Next one comes us from Nathan, who writes, in my opinion, Lethal Weapon / Die Hard are not Christmas movies. I've said the same thing. The discussion, Lethal Weapon isn't really in that discussion very much. It's mostly Die Hard. Yet, and I agree, to me, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It's a movie that happens at Christmas time, but it being Christmas and the themes of Christmas have nothing to do with the movie, therefore it's not a Christmas movie. Like, just because a movie happens in Chicago doesn't mean it's a Chicago movie. Is the movie about Chicago? No, then it's not a Chicago movie. Just because it takes place there. Die Hard takes place at Christmas time. Does the movie have anything to do with Christmas? No. So it's not a Christmas movie. Now, I've got some friends who would, adamantly disagree with me on that, which is totally fine. I'm sure there's many of you guys who would adamantly disagree. I'm just saying, from my point of view, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It happens at Christmas, but it has nothing to do with Christmas. Therefore, not a Christmas movie. That's just the way I look at it. Maybe you look at it a little bit differently, which is totally fine. All right, let's go on here. Just Plain Steve writes, in no particular order, what are some of your favorite Christmas movies, and are there any that you watch every year? Well, so I've actually been asked that question a lot this week. I'm not gonna sit here and give a list of movies because I would need time to sit down and make a list. I watch Alistair's A Christmas Carol every year. That's definitely one I watch every year. There are a couple more that me and my family and inevitably always pop on every single Christmas, and I'm drawing a blank right now, probably because I'm trying to think of 15 different other things. But that is definitely one. As long as I can remember, ever since I was a child, every Christmas, at some time during the Christmas season, not necessarily on Christmas Day per se, but at some time during the Christmas season, my mom puts on that classic Christmas Carol. And I think that has pretty much continued on my whole life. So that's definitely one of them. Let's see. Seth Owen writes, have you seen the miniseries Godless on Netflix? I have not. I've been wanting to watch it. I just have not had time. That might be something. One of the great things about going home for Christmas is I have a lot of time to just lounge in the family room with the fireplace roaring and just watch stuff and relax with my dad sitting there, my mom sitting there, and we just like to kick back and relax. Like, we'll go out and we'll do all that stuff, but one of the things I love about Christmas time and going back to Canada is just lounging around the ranch for like a week. And I get a chance to watch a lot of stuff. So hopefully I'll get a chance to watch Godless this week. All right. Tony Bush writes, over the holiday, I recommend checking out Crosswind #1 by Gail Simone and HeroClix tabletop game, a game where Magneto can fight Sinestro. Happy holiday. You know what's funny, Tony? I have never heard of HeroClix till about 4 or 5 days ago. And all of a sudden, about 4 or 5 days ago, I've had 5 or 6 different people sending me tweets or things like that recommending this game. I still have no idea what it is, but I'm getting a bunch of people telling me about it right now. If you guys know it and you've played it, jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Is it worth me checking out while I'm gone over the holiday season? All right. Next one here comes to us from Anthony R. And Anthony R writes, what do you think of George Lucas's original idea to have Luke's sister show up in Episode 8 and the Emperor show up in Episode 9? Star Wars would be very different. Yeah, I'm not down with it, to be honest with you. I really like the direction the current Star Wars is going. I'm not really big on that idea. Is to have Luke's sister show up in Episode 8. Well, what do you say? Luke has a sister. So I'm not sure about that. But the Emperor showing up in 9. Now, Emperor's dead. Let's move on from that. One of the things that really frustrates me about Star Wars is this incessant need by filmmakers and fans to constantly just want to go back to stuff we've already covered. I want a young Yoda movie. Why? We've already done Yoda. Let's move forward. You want to have Yoda pop up in The Last Jedi? Great, because that's at least moving the story forward. I'm like, let's go into new sections of the galaxy. Let's get new characters. And even in this thing, at least, now we're bringing all these new characters with Finn and Poe and Hux and all. I love that. And I like having some remnants of the old stuff moving forward. But, now let's go back to the Emperor again. Yeah, I mean, there may be some of you guys that really turns your crank and that gets you excited, and that's great. But honestly, for me, it wouldn't be my first choice. Let's just say that. It wouldn't be my first choice. C.K. Gould writes, have you seen the trailer for A Quiet Place? What do you think? It looks interesting. Well, that's actually a trailer that came out a couple months ago, starring John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. I believe she's in it with him. And you're right. I mean, as far as an original horror concept goes, It's a dynamite looking movie. I mean, it could be terrible, but at least it looks really original to me. I mean, I've not seen, because usually when I see a trailer for a horror film, I can usually instantly think of 6, 7, or 8 films that this looks similar to. Now, that's neither a good nor a bad thing. I'm just saying, whenever I see a horror film or a trailer for it, I can think about 6 or 7 other horror films that it'll remind me of. With The Quiet Place, I cannot think of maybe even 2 films that this reminds me of. This seems really cool and very different from a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing lately. So it's got me intrigued. I certainly love the cast. I love John Krasinski. Everybody loves Emily Blunt. So I'm definitely curious about the film. I'm quite anxious to see it, actually. I really want to see how this turns out. All right. This next one comes to us from Ben Raynor, who writes, I saw the new Jumanji yesterday, really enjoyed it. Had a question that's driving me crazy. At the end, was that actor the son of a certain actor? I looked it up on IMDb and I couldn't find him in anything. Is it him? Yes, that is him. That's Tom's son. That is that actor. That's all I'll say. We don't want to give too many things away, but yes, that actor at the end is Tom's son. You'll know, if you saw Jumanji, you know exactly what I'm talking about. By the way, if you haven't seen Jumanji, it's not a classic. It's not going to be a film you're still talking about 3 years from now, nothing like that, but it's quite enjoyable. And I'm so glad it's quite enjoyable because, damn it, The Rock needed something good to come back after Baywatch. Baywatch is going to stand as one of my biggest disappointments of 2017. Because, number one, I love The Rock. I love Zac Efron. I thought the trailers looked hilarious for Baywatch. And it is one of the worst films of the year. And therefore stands probably either number 1, number 2, or number 3 on my biggest disappointments cinematically of the year. I'll be putting out a list of my biggest disappointment movies between now and January 1st. But you bet your ass that Baywatch is going to be on there. Which is one of the reasons why I was so relieved to go in and watch Jumanji and actually really quite enjoy myself watching it. Again, it's not a great film. It's not a movie that's going to go down in cinematic history. It's not a movie you're even going to be talking about 2 years from now, probably. But just a really nice, fun, entertaining time at the theater. Sometime in the next couple of weeks, Jumanji's, to me, is a can't miss. I quite enjoy myself. I giggled a lot. I thought it had some pretty endearing moments. I got attached to the characters. Jack Black is incredible. He almost steals this movie, really, the way he portrayed it, which is nice to see Jack Black make a comeback like that because we haven't seen him do it a whole hell of a lot lately. So yeah, Jumanji, and yes, that is Tom's son. So there you go. All right, we move on now down to, where'd it go? Justin Welsh, who writes, love the show, thank you, always. As a fellow Canadian, your talk about Kerry at the end of the last show reminds me of the great Terry Fox, who couldn't finish. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Terry Fox, and I'm sure there are a lot of Americans who do know, but Terry Fox is a true Canadian hero. He was a guy diagnosed with cancer. He lost his leg, and he decided to do this cross-country marathon to dip his leg in each of the 2 major oceans bordering the left and the right side of Canada. And he had cancer elsewhere, and he couldn't finish, and he didn't cross the finish line. And I kid you not, Justin, that is actually one of the things in my head. When I think about Kerry and the absolutely nonsensical, ridiculous notion that they shouldn't recast her. I'm not saying people who feel that way are ridiculous and nonsensical, but I find that idea ridiculous, nonsensical, disrespectful, the whole bit. The idea that we won't finish it for her is inconceivable, ridiculous, insulting, disrespectful. That whole notion that we do not finish this for her. Because you know, there were legions of people who finished that race for Terry. And every year, people do something like that in Terry's name to continue on what he did. And the fact that this whole notion that Carrie Fisher, and I promise I won't go on a 10-minute rant like I did yesterday, but just let me sum it up in 30 seconds here. This whole notion that Carrie Fisher, who spent the majority of her career developing and giving us this Princess Leia character, and then putting herself through all the stuff she had to go through to get ready to be in the new films, and now Hans had his focus movie, Lucas had his focus movie. We are heading into the climax of the Leia storyline in episode 9, which is supposed to be her movie, And with all the stuff that Kerry did to get us to this point, to not carry it on in her name, to let the Princess Leia character just go, write her off and say she died off camera? What kind of stupid bullshit is that? That's insulting to Carrie Fisher. That's disrespectful to Carrie Fisher. That is also insulting and disrespectful to the Leia character. It is asinine. Absolute asinine. And again, full respect to everybody who thinks the opposite, because I know your motivation is that you want to be respectful to Kerry. You just have radically different ideas about what would be respectful to Kerry than I do. Because to me, it's inconceivable that any true Star Wars fan to me, and anybody who has any respect for Carrie Fisher, would think that we shouldn't carry her across the finish line. Pick her up and carry her across the finish line. Kerry was unable to get there herself. She wasn't able to get us to 9. All right? It is inconceivable, disrespectful, disheartening, ludicrous, outrageous. The fact that the idea amongst Star Wars fans is even entertained that we shouldn't pick her up and carry her across the finish line since she can't do it herself. The fact that that's even an idea that some people out there entertain, I find unbelievable. Just unbelievable. But anyway, I'm not going to go on that same rant again because I did it the other day. Okay, thanks for the question, Justin. Next one comes to us from Jake C., who writes, Weinstein effects makes me nervous to write and direct. I've never assaulted anyone, but one accusation means I never work again. Does this ever scare you? I mean, look, it's part of the reality of where we live now. And the reality is, we now live in a current climate that's not going to last forever, but we live in a current climate right now where all you have to do is be accused of something and you're done. And here's the big scary thing to everybody. At some point in your life, whether you were joking or not, whether you realized what you were doing or not, or whatever, you have done something that if suddenly became public and people cared who you were, would be scandalous. Everybody's done it. Even if you don't realize you've done it, maybe you don't realize you said something to somebody in a certain way. Maybe you don't realize you did something to somebody in a certain way. You've all done it. Me too. Everybody of you watching it, everybody has. And it makes for a very frightening environment right now. However, the people's whose fault it is that this is the current environment, it is not victims coming forward. They're not. I read this one ludicrous notion out there that all these women and other people as well, not just women, there have been some men stuff too, but all these women coming forward have created a toxic environment. Blah, blah, blah. No, they didn't cause a toxic environment. Assholes who victimized those people are the ones who are responsible for this environment. Don't blame the people for coming forward and telling people what was done to them. They're not to blame. What is to blame is assholes doing things to them. That is to blame. Don't misplace the blame of all this on the people who are the victims. They're not the ones responsible for the current climate. The people who victimize those people, the people who take advantage of those people, the people who physically assault and abuse and blackmail those people. Those are the people who are to blame for this environment, not them. So, but yeah, it's definitely something that I think every writer, director, actor, or actress or executive today is on pins and needles. I think everybody's on pins and needles right now. And it's the current environment. And again, maybe it's kind of a shot that not just this industry, but every industry needs. I mean, for heaven's sakes, I mean, I'm not going to go into regardless you believe this side or this side, but we live in an environment where the President of the United States has 13 accusers of sexual harassment. And some of them are sexual assault. I mean, so it's not just the entertainment industry. I mean, it's everywhere. And it's a very delicate situation. And you're right. I think you should be nervous going into it. And I think every executive, actor and actress, director, writer, everybody in this industry is kind of on pins and needles right now. And maybe it's the kind of shot in the arm that we need. Maybe we need this to happen to get things straightened out. Anyway, I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on this, because clearly I'm not. I'm not a sociologist. So, but those are just my quick thoughts. All right. Next one comes to us from Carlos Wachua13, who writes, Merry Christmas, John. Your show is the best gift of all. Thanks. Well, thank you so much, Carlos. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys joining me on this Christmas Eve when I thought everybody would just be off doing something else. But, this is just a testament to how much movie fans just love getting together and talking movies. I think that's great. All right. Christopher Benson writes, any news on a Nightmare on Elm Street remake? I heard a while ago that Kevin Bacon was vying to play Freddy Krueger. Well, we just did a Nightmare on Elm Street remake not so long ago. I don't know. With Rorschach as Freddy. So I haven't heard anything, and that flopped. It didn't do well. So I haven't heard of anything, of anybody trying something different. Let me just look up Elm Street here. I just want to see how much money that remake actually made. And the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street worldwide made $115 million. Worldwide. 115. Those aren't the numbers they were looking for. So I haven't heard, I also didn't hear any official, legitimate report about Kevin Bacon wanting to play Freddy Krueger. I never heard that. Maybe it's out there and I just missed it. If it is, please leave a link and let me know. But I haven't heard anything about that, to be honest with you. And I can't see a studio wanting to do another one. We just had one a couple of years ago. So who knows? It's a strange industry, man. Anything can happen, though. All right, we move on. This one comes to us from Alex George, who writes, most underrated movie of the year. Impossible for me to say. I'd have to sit down and look at a list of the movies that have come out this year. But, hold a second. Let me pull something up here. Let me pull up a year list of 2017. Let me see what's underrated here. Girls Trip isn't underrated because I think most people acknowledge that's pretty fantastic. Everybody loves Baby Driver. Daddy's Home 2 isn't so good. Most people really like, I don't know that you can say John Wick is underrated. Most people really like that. Hitman's Bodyguard, I think, is a little bit underrated. So there's Hitman's Bodyguard. That's a bit underrated. Let's see. Happy Death Day, I think, is underrated. Happy Death Day was a real pleasant little surprise movie to me. That probably is my most pleasant surprise movie of the year, was Happy Death Day. Because I had garbage expectations of that movie, and I really enjoyed myself watching that film at the whole time. But again, this is something I have to sit down and make a big list out of and try to figure out. Thanks a lot for asking, though. All right. Wilfredo Rivera writes, after seeing Disaster Artist in 127 Hours being a favorite of mine, James Franco is an underrated actor. Your thoughts on James Franco and who's someone you think is underrated? James Franco is not underrated. Most people acknowledge he's a very, very good actor. He can be one of your favorites. That's great. That's good that he is. He's a really talented actor. But I don't think you can say he's underrated when there's not a lot of people out there who think he's a bad actor. Unless a lot of people think he's a bad actor, I don't think you can call him underrated. And you're right. He was great in Disaster Artist. He isn't great in everything. I've seen him in a couple things that are a little bit hit and miss, but for the most part, he's a very talented, gifted guy. He is a very celebrated celebrity in Hollywood, so I got to disagree with you that he's underrated, because I think he does get the appreciation he deserves. As far as who I think is underrated, I still think to this day Chiwetel Ejiofor doesn't get the credit. I think he's one of the top 3 or 4 best actors in the world. And I have a hard time getting people to agree with me on that. So I think he's a little bit underrated for his station. Most people acknowledge he's good, but I don't think people give him the credit for being as good as he is. Again, who's your most this? I'd have to sit down and think about it. But I can't, it's tough for me to do that off the top of my head, but I'll give it some thought. Andrew Gifford writes, stories that should get the Disney treatment. I don't know exactly what you mean by that, Andrew. Like, what stories? Sports stories? Disney existing animated stories? I don't know what you mean by the Disney treatment either. You're going to have to be a little bit more specific there. Chris Martin writes, Any new Star Wars books you're looking forward to? Mine is Thrawn Alliances. Can't wait to read about the team up with Vader. I didn't love Thrawn. I liked Thrawn. But it wasn't a page turner to me, you know. There were certainly parts of it that I had to plod my way through. Everything that had to do with Price in it, I thought was just slow and dull and boring. And they quite often went to Price many times in that. I really quite enjoyed Phasma, but I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you. I don't think there are any Star Wars novels coming out that I'm looking forward to. I think they crushed it with a couple of them. Tarkin was great. Lords of the Sith was great. Bloodline was very good. Lost Stars was fantastic. My triumvirate of the 3 best Star Wars books in the new canon era are Lords of the Sith, Lost Stars, and Tarkin. Everything other than that, I wouldn't classify as must-read, to be honest with you. So, and there have been a bunch of books that I haven't been, you know, overly thrilled with. So I'm not actually looking forward all that much to any more novels. That's not to say I won't give them a try when they come out. Like, I'm sure the upcoming Snoke novel, not that it's been announced, but I'm sure it will be at some point. I'll give it a shot and everything like that. And maybe I'll give the next Thrawn novel a shot. But it's not like I'm dying to read them, to be honest with you. Anyway, that's just my thought on that. All right. Daniel Baczynski, who writes, have you heard any news about Billionaire Boys Club? I'm curious to know if Kevin Spacey will have an impact on it. Nothing. I haven't heard anything about it at this point. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure anything with Kevin Spacey's ever going to hit the theaters again. The time for that may have come and gone. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. Aston Regis, the flip side, writes, Merry Christmas, John. Black Panther in February. What's your opening box office weekend prediction, especially being the first time mainstream cinema is depicting African culture in a positive light? Your thoughts? Man, it's tough. It's tough. I'm going to go 80 million opening weekend. I'm going to go with an $80 million opening weekend, which would be high for Marvel MCU films. It'll put in the top half of Marvel MCU films. Right now I'm going to say that. I withhold the right to change that guess as we get closer to the film. So ask me again when we're about 2 weeks away from the film opening. For now, I'll go with $80 million as an opening weekend. All right. We move on now down to Maximum Effort 44. I love that name. Who writes, hey, John, thank you for all you do. Love your videos and watch every day. You are a god of Star Wars trivia, my man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And, you know, for those of you to know, so yesterday I did this thing because I had a few people ask me to do it. And I thought, oh, actually, that sounds like a fun idea. So I took the movie trivia challenge. I hadn't watched it yet. And where I played along with Sam Witwer and Ken Knapsack. And now, look, right off the bat, I said, there's no way you can know if I've watched this video first or not. There's just no way. I mean, I haven't. All I can do is tell you that I haven't. So if you just your starting assumption is that I'm a liar, there's nothing I can do to change your mind about that. All I can do is tell you that I have not watched this video yet. I also said the second thing you got to keep in mind is the fact that it is different. Even though I was doing it live, I live streamed it to try to simulate some of the pressure, but it's a different level of pressure when you're there in the studio, in front of the cameras, in front of the lights, and you got an audience there. It makes it a little bit different. Like, you either know it or you don't, but it does add to the pressure. So I gave those disclaimers off the top. Say, look, I haven't watched this, although there's no way you can know that for sure. Also, they have a little bit more pressure on them, I think, than I do. And I even put up a second camera so people could always see my hands, to see that I wasn't looking at a phone, I wasn't typing on my keyboard to try to pull up answers or anything like that, so people could see my hands and all that kind of nonsense. And I ended up winning by a lot. Although I couldn't legitimately participate in the speed round because there's no way you can tell if I would have buzzed in before them or not. There's just no way to tell. So I didn't really participate in that. I let other people online try to score it out. And I ended up winning by a bunch. Actually, I think I had enough points to win just at the end of the main round before they went to the speed round. But at any rate, but you know what? Here's the thing, though. It all depends on the questions. I think in a sense, I got lucky in the sense that they happened to ask a lot of the questions that I knew the answers to. I think there's probably another set of questions that they could have asked where Ken would have won or Sam would have won or whatever. I think that totally could have happened easily. So it's a little bit of luck. It's a little bit of less pressure. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Anyway, the bottom line was that I won by a pretty healthy distance. Inevitably, of course, there were still some people that jumped on my comment section to call me a liar and said, you watched that first already, or you already knew what the questions were. It's like, okay, well, you decided that already. You within your rights, you are making the starting assumption that I'm a liar. There's nothing I can do about that to change your mind. So you're entitled to think what you think. All I can do is tell you that I didn't. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Go check it out. And just taking me out of it, just the match between Sam. I don't watch hardly any of the movie trivia stuff anymore, but that match between Sam and Ken was fantastic. It was fantastic stuff. It was really, really great. Great finish to it, whole bit. So congratulations to the new Star Wars trivia champion, Sam Witwer, the man I've already beat twice. And if you want to count the little video I did yesterday, 3 times, but we'll just say twice. The man I already beat twice is champion. Congratulations, Sam. But no, in all honesty, it was a fabulous match between them. It was great, back and forth, went right down to the wire. It was super exciting to watch. You should go check it out. You should go watch. You should watch the video I did, but you should also go watch the main video itself, just to really take in the atmosphere of that match. It was a very, very, very good, very entertaining match. You should check it out. Let's see. The Devil's Help writes, if I can find him now, because I lost him. There we go. The Devil's Help writes, Jeff Daniels is fantastic and godless. Must see. Well, Jeff Daniels is great in just about everything. So that I have no doubt whatsoever. But it is yet another reason why I am looking forward to watching it. Thanks for the recommendation, The Devil's Help. Tony Bush writes, more interested in Alita or Human Engine so far? Oh, Human Engines. Don't get me, I am curious about Alita. I've been waiting for Alita for a long, long, long time. I've been wanting James Cameron to do an Alita Battle Angel for, I feel like it's been 10 years that he's been talking about getting it done, and now he's not directing. He's got Robert Rodriguez directing it. I'm not sure how I feel about that. And then the trailer, the character, again, the character in the Alita Battle Angel trailer, I've seen these conversations all over the place. Somebody would say, she doesn't look real. And then somebody else would say, well, she's not supposed to be real. She's artificial life form. To which I then reply, okay, let me change the terminology. She doesn't look like she's physically there. She looks like a video game character that's being composited into a live action environment, okay? Obviously, she's not a real person. I get that. But she doesn't even look like she's actually physically there. She looks like a composited animation in a live action environment. Like 3 shades away from Roger Rabbit. It's not that bad. But just for hyperbole, it's like it's the same thing as Roger Rabbit. Obviously, Roger Rabbit isn't supposed to be a real rabbit, but it looks like an animated character being composited on top of a live action environment. That's what I felt like watching Alita Battle Angel trailer. So I am definitely more interested, not to mention the fact that you got Peter Jackson behind Human Mortal Engines. I assume that's what you mean by Human Engines. I'm assuming you mean Mortal Engines. I hope you mean Mortal Engines. Anyway, so I'm more looking forward to that. Wumbo321 writes, do you think Poe will have Luke's X-Wing? And what do you think of a Han/Leia/Luke funeral scene to end episode 9 and pay respects to those beloved characters? No, I mean, because these characters ultimately would have died years apart. Because even though episode 8 takes place relatively soon after episode 7, I believe episode 9 is probably going to take a time jump. I don't know that for sure. I haven't read that anywhere, but my assumption is they're going to have a little bit of a time jump, that some time will have passed between episode 8 and episode 9. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to have a big combined funeral for people who have died several years apart. As far as Poe having Luke's X-Wing, no, Luke's X-Wing is junk now. It's sitting at the bottom of a cove underneath, 20 feet of water, and it's been there for like 10 years. So there's no using that X-Wing. That one's gone. There's much more newer starfighters he can be fighting and flying, so I don't think we're going to see that happen. Thanks a lot for the question, Wumbo. All right, next one comes to us from Maximum Effort 44T, who writes, have you watched Big Mouth yet? Yeah, I've watched a couple of episodes. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. Now, I had some of my friends saying it's like the best animated series they've ever seen. I don't think it's on that level. Like, I'll still take Archer over this. I'll take a couple of things over this, but I watched the first couple of episodes. I did laugh a lot. And it is kind of like, it's like, oh my God, they're not afraid to go anywhere with that show. I'm enjoying it so far. I'll probably, you know what? I'll probably watch it on the plane. I'll probably watch it on my flight to Canada tonight. So hopefully I'll get caught up in that really fast. Steven C20 writes, Zimmer or Williams Superman score and why? Zim for me. Yeah, I go back and forth. Because there's a lot of people who consider John Williams' Superman score to be like not just the best superhero score, like, but maybe the best score of all time ever. I mean, I saw like middle-aged men at the John Williams concert when he broke out the Superman theme. There were people in tears. Listen to that. Everybody loses their minds. It's forever. It's immortal, that one. But the Zimmer Man of Steel theme is so good. I mean, at least once a week, I'll just be sitting here and think, I got to listen to that. And I'll pop it on as I'm working. And as I'm listening to that Zimmer Man of Steel theme, I'm like typing going, bum, ba, dun, 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 and I catch myself bopping in my seat in the whole bit. I mean, it's just stellar. So some days I'll say I prefer the Zimmer one. Some days I'll say I prefer the John Williams one. I need another year or two to really figure that out, but they are both masterpieces for sure. Santiago Villa writes, you missed my previous super chat. Maybe you just missed me doing it. I'm not sure, Santiago. But if I did, I'm sorry. I am doing this by myself, trying to keep track of 50 different things at once. And if I did miss it, my apologies. But maybe instead of just putting in another one to say I missed the previous one, why not just put it in again? And the problem's solved. So sorry if I drop. If it is my fault and I drop the ball on it, I do apologize. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm not going to drop the ball again in the future, because as long as it's just me trying to do everything by myself and I'm doing this live and swapping in graphics, doing all this kind of stuff. Remember, this show is not pre-recorded. That I can, make sure these little problems don't happen. It happens, and it will probably happen again. I'm just going to admit that. Until I'm to the point where I can, hire help to come in and help me out with that kind of stuff, which is what my Patreon supporters are trying to get me to, then the little problem will help. But again, Santiago, instead of just putting in a thing saying, you missed my chat, just put in the question again. Simple. Alan Jensen writes, just want to wish you you and every wonderful viewer a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Thank you for all the great shows, John. Oh, thank you so much, Alan. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate, too, that you also sent that message to all of our fellow film fans as well. All of us, we've got a community here, guys, where we get together and we talk about movies and stuff. And I love that you guys join me every day, and I get to join you. And it's just great having this family together that we can talk about movies, discuss things, have agreements, have disagreements. It's all good. So it's really wonderful. And thanks a lot, Alan, for sending that in. Creative saying, you missed a few super chats. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to race back here to see what I missed. Oh, I did miss a couple. Look at that. Okay, so let me go with the... Oh, then I'll try to zoom forward here. Justin Welsh just sent in a super chat. That's great. Thank you so much, Justin. Tony Bush says, over under The Last Jedi, total box office, $1.3 billion. I'll take the over. It's already at $725 million on like day 10. So I do see it crossing $1.3 billion. Remember, I always said it wasn't going to catch. I said for years that it wasn't going to catch Star Wars The Force Awakens. And everybody would tell me I'm crazy. I'm telling you, it's not going to catch it. There's just too many circumstances surrounding it that's not going to prevent it. That's going to prevent it from getting anywhere close. I've been saying it for years. So I don't, but I will take the over 1.3. I think if you put the 1.5, that would be a tougher one to take, but on 1.3, I'll take the over on that. Santiago Villa wrote, hi, John. So Black Panther is tracking for 90 million opening and 275 million final domestic. Your thoughts? I find it incredible. Well, if it does open to 90 million, that's huge. I think that's a monster opening for a single superhero who's not one of the big 3 or 4, not Batman, not Superman, not Spider-Man, to open at $90 million would be an incredible feat. Would be an incredible feat if it can actually happen. Again, right now I'm guessing 80, but I may change my thoughts on that a little bit later. And remember, tracking right now is rough because we're still like 2 months away from it coming out. So let's wait till we get a little bit closer. Let's see. Ben Raynor's writing, what is an overrated Christmas? I don't like to take those questions, Ben, because I have to sit there and think about it and all that kind of stuff. Creative Channel wrote, have you heard anything about the third Cloverfield movie, God Particle? It opens February 2nd in 2018, and we've had no trailer. Did you like 10 Cloverfield Lane? I liked 10 Cloverfield Lane, but I didn't love it. I'm also one of these guys, I wasn't all that thrilled with Cloverfield. I thought Cloverfield was okay, but I never thought it was all that good. I thought 10 Cloverfield Lane, while there are a couple of spectacular performances in it, I didn't think it was all that great. I mean, it was all right. I liked it. Yeah, I gave it a thumbs up, and I would recommend people seeing it, but I'm not over the moon about it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not excited about God Particle either. I'll see it, and hopefully it's good, but we don't know. We talked the other day about the fact that there's no trailer for it yet. And I'm not concerned. I mean, it is interesting. Normally we have trailers out by now, but I don't think that's any reflection on the quality of the movie. That's just more of a reflection on the fact that they have a particular marketing campaign and they've just decided not to launch a trailer for it yet. And I'm sure when they do, they're going to hit it hard and fast, and then we'll see it. But other than that, not too many other thoughts on it. Okay. Siobhan Dixit writes, Star Wars isn't as popular overseas as it is in America. Well, it depends on where you're talking about. Movies like Fast and Furious and Avengers make the same amount of money internationally. Heck, Rogue One made more domestically than overseas. That never happens for blockbusters. Thoughts? No thoughts. Star Wars is the most popular brand in the world, and it makes ridiculous amounts of money. And yes, every once in a while you will have flashes in the pan of another franchise that will make equal to Star Wars, but on an overall consistent basis, worldwide, nothing makes as much as Star Wars. On an overall, you might get an aberration here and an aberration there, and this is an exception, and this is an exception here and there. But if you want to sit back and then look at a 40-year history, nothing is as popular worldwide as Star Wars. And it's going to stay that way. There might be, again, an aberration coming up now and then, here and there, but if you look over the next 30 years, I'm still pretty confident that nothing will be as popular worldwide as Star Wars as a brand overall. Maybe I'm wrong about that totally, but that's just kind of how I see it at this point. Dirk Walker writes, should beloved franchises like Star Wars and MCU play it safe, stick to what works, and give fans what they expect, or take risks and give fans something new? Ultimately, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, whether you're trying something new or whether you're sticking with what's the old formula is, you still got to make a good movie. I've seen lots of movies use the right formulas and still not end up being good. Formulas are simply a structure. That's all formulas can do. Formulas just give you a skeleton. You still got to put the meat on it, and you got to still breathe life into it. And whether you go with something new or whether you go with something that's tried and true, both have value, both have their upsides, both have their advantages, both have their disadvantages. At the end of the day, though, whether you go with something brand new and risk-taking or whether you go with something that's safe and is proven to work, at the end of the day, you still got to make a good movie around it. Regardless of which skeleton you go with, you still have to breathe life into it and put meat on those bones, and that's the filmmaking itself. And look, we saw some people didn't like The Force Awakens because it was too similar. It was too much the Star Wars formula. We see some people don't like The Last Jedi because it's too new. It's too different from what we're familiar with. So it doesn't really matter. You just got to make a good movie. And that's all that matters. Justice League didn't fail because it wasn't Avengers enough. That's not why it failed. It could be completely different from the Avengers, and it doesn't matter. As long as you build a really good, audience-pleasing movie. That's all you got to do. All you got to do. It is one of the hardest things in the world to do, but that's the most important thing, not so much whether you go with something that's risk-taking. Look, again, there are advantages to the risk-taking, and there's some added bonuses you can get from that. There are some advantages to doing what's tried and true and that really works with fans. There are advantages to that as well, but it still comes down to needing to make a great movie regardless of which way you go. There's no button. It's like, oh, if you do new things with risks, it will work automatically. No. If you do tried and true with the formula, it'll work automatically. We've seen many times that that's not the case. It's all about making a good movie, and that's the thing that matters. All right. Anthony R. writes, do you think episode 10, 11, and 12 will be what people wanted 7, 8, and 9 to be? Starting off with a new Jedi Order. Also, when will Mandalorians come back? Hard to say. And the fact of the matter is, the vast majority of people out there do like the new Star Wars movies. I know there's a very vocal group of people who don't, and they're not an insignificant number. But the vast majority do. There was a new survey done that was a cold survey, which is probably the most accurate kind of survey you can do, done by SurveyMonkey, one of the more popular online survey companies and polling companies. And their results were 89% of people were positive on The Last Jedi. 89%. So the majority of people really do like these movies. But again, it's not about the people that didn't like it, did not like it because of this, that, and the other thing. They didn't like it because the movie didn't work for them. I mean, we shouldn't make excuses, and I know this isn't what you're trying to suggest, but we shouldn't make excuses for why people who didn't like The Last Jedi didn't like it. They didn't like it just because they watched it and it didn't work for them. And there's nothing wrong with that, any more than there's anything wrong with you watching a movie and that other movie not working for you. It is what it is. And again, it just comes down to the filmmaking of it, not the big put. Now, anybody who says to me, I didn't like it because there wasn't a lightsaber fight, then that's stupid. Yes, that is stupid. But they represent the 0.1% of the people who didn't like it. Most people who didn't like the movie didn't like it just because they didn't like it. They watched it, it didn't work for them, so they don't like it. And that's great. Nothing wrong with that. That's what subjectivity of film is all about. Let's see. Schiavone writes, Interstellar is a masterpiece. It gets even better on repeat viewings. Best visuals in any movie, in my opinion. I think Interstellar is quite good. To be honest with you, I think it's Christopher Nolan's worst film. No. I take that back. I think The Dark Knight Rises is Nolan's worst film, and that's still good. Dark Knight Rises is a good movie. It's good. It's just not anywhere near the other two Dark Knight movies, in my opinion. And then I think Interstellar is his second worst film. But also still, I think it's good, and I enjoyed it, and I gave it a positive review for sure. That's an example of Christopher Nolan really swung for the fences on that. I don't think he got there, but whatever. But there are a lot of people I know who really love that film. A lot of people I know who really love that film. So good on you. Tony Bush writes, should Marvel do a Daily Bugle show like The Office? Well, DC had this show, what was it called? Powerless. That was just on, I think it was an NBC show recently. And it was on this year. And a lot of people hated that show. I'm going to be honest with you. I found it really charming. And Alan Tudyk was in it. And I really thought that show was charming. Was it certainly dumb? Yes, it was certainly dumb. But at the same time, I found myself getting really attached to the characters. And I found their interactions and their conversations with each other. And the type of humor was very, very witty. And I just liked the show. I did. I liked it a lot. Maybe Marvel could do something like that, perhaps, but it didn't work for DC's Powerless, because even though I liked it, most people didn't. It got canceled after one season. So I don't know that they'd be looking to do something like that. Let's see. Mark Schaefer writes, John, I know you left the corporate overlords, but your Star Wars knowledge is among the best. Is it possible we ever see you in a Schmodown? I don't think so. You know, I was just tweeting the other day back and forth with Christian Harloff about that. But like Christian and I stay in touch. Me and Dennis still comes over and we watch, you know, UFCs together. Christian and I, we haven't had lunch in a while, but I mean, we tweet and text each other back and forth. Everything's good. I don't know why people seem, oh my gosh, John, do you and, you know, so-and-so have beef? No, I don't know why anybody would have that impression. We don't. But I have no desire to go back. I have no desire to go back. You know, Collider, that place I built, is in my rearview mirror. And they're, you know, they've got great people there who I still have a great affection in my heart for. I just had lunch with Wendy Lee. I just had lunch with her like 3 days ago. We got together and had lunch. I still have a great place of affection in my heart for many of the people there and all that kind of stuff. But as an overall organization and all that kind of stuff, I have zero desire to go back. None whatsoever. So, yeah, so that's that. I do not see myself going back there to do anything with them. Not because I don't still have a great place of affection in my heart for many of the people there. I do, but that is in my rearview mirror. This is what I do now. And, this is what I much prefer doing. So no, you probably will not see me in 2018 or any other time going over and doing something with them. All right, there's that. Let's see. Justin Welsh writes, love the show always. Okay, so we've gotten that far. So I answered these questions. Let's see. I'll try to fast forward to where I was before. Okay, now we get back up to Siobhan Dixit. Your favorite action scene of 2017, Thor versus Hulk final battle in Logan, thing of Atomic Blonde. I think somebody asked me the same question the other day. I don't know. I would have to think about it. I would have to sit down and make a list and think about it. While I love Logan as my favorite film of the year, I don't know that any of the particular action sequences are amongst the best of the year. Thor versus Hulk was great, but it didn't have a lot of dramatic impact. It was just a great fight, and that was cool. I'll go with that Atomic Blonde hallway scene is probably the best action sequence of the year. There, I'll go with that. There. The hallway fight, which is worth the price of admission alone. It is worth buying a ticket, watching Atomic Blonde just for that one 6 or 7 minute scene. It just leaves you breathless. It's insane. If you haven't watched Atomic Blonde, just watch the movie just for the hallway fight. It is so worth it. It really is. Okay, so we took the Tony Bush over under 1.3 billion. Dim Sum 05 writes, choose one. Logan versus Man of Steel. Also, is Logan your favorite X-Men movie? Logan... okay. I will take Logan over Man of Steel. That's tough for me to say, but there are some comic book movies I like even more than Man of Steel. Man of Steel is in my top 10 all-time favorites. Logan is as well. Logan ranks above it. So I'll take Logan over Man of Steel. Is Logan my favorite X-Men movie? Man, Days of Future Past and X-Men 2 are both so freaking good. And, you know, if you want to include Deadpool in that becomes really tricky. I'll take Logan. Yeah. Okay, I'll go with Logan. Logan is my all-time favorite X-Men movie. There. There's that. Rcast6 writes, thoughts on a petition to remove The Last Jedi from canon? Any idiot. I just did it the other day. I don't know. Did you guys see that? Look it up. I did. Look on my social media. I started a petition. Any idiot can jump on and start a petition to get some people who feel a certain way to sign it. And it means nothing. I started a petition on change.org to stop all movie-related petitions. So yes, that's right. You heard that right. I started a petition to end petitions. Actually, let me see if I can find it here. Petition to end petitions, John Campea. Let me see if I can find it here. Let's see. John Campea on Twitter. Where is it? Well, I'm sure you can find it. Find it on change.org. Find it on... scroll through my social media and you'll find it. But I did start a petition to end all petitions. Oh, here we go. Here it is. You know what? I'm going to take the URL and I'm going to put it in the chat box here so you guys can see it. There we go. I put it in the chat box. There's the chat. There's the link to my change.org campaign to end petition. Petition to end petitions. There we go. Any idiot can start. So I paid no attention because they're meaningless. They accomplish nothing. They're pointless. I've said that about every petition. I'm not just picking on this one petition. I've said that about every movie petition that's ever happened. Ever since way back in the day, there was that big petition to stop Daniel Craig from being Bond when they first cast Daniel Craig. He's totally wrong for James Bond. He's got the wrong color hair. And he doesn't look right. And there was a big petition to stop him from being James Bond. Now, this is obviously years and years and years and years ago. But ever since then, I've been telling everybody, these petitions are stupid, they're pointless, they're ineffective, and they don't do anything. So you go ahead and have your petition, but just understand, anybody can jump on and start a petition about anything you want. So they're stupid and they're pointless. Not that people having the point of view from that petition is stupid and pointless. Not at all. No, the film is subjective. If you got a view that you want this or want that, that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. Just understand that then going to starting a petition about it is dumb. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's stupid. And at the end of the day, it's just ultimately toothless. It doesn't do anything. So I give those things no thought whatsoever. Okay. Let's see. Siobhan Dixit wrote, and I lost it here. Let's see. Siobhan Dixit writes, hey, John, your favorite Iron Man suit? Don't care. An Iron Man suit's an Iron Man suit to me. I really don't care. I know my least favorite Iron Man suit is the Spider-Man Iron Man suit in Spider-Man Homecoming. And by the way, guys, if you haven't sent in a super chat yet, do not send them in because I'm already over an hour and I want to see if I can finish off these ones we have here. So I'm going to just fly through these next ones really fast. Most underrated James Bond movie. Mine is License to Kill. Probably Octopussy, I think. I really get a kick out of Octopussy. Chris Martin writes, can we still see a Luke versus Kylo in episode 9? Nah, I doubt it. I don't think you're going to see Force Ghost versus a living person, so I don't think we're going to see that. John Hine writes, will Solo be the first Star Wars film with no laser swords? Yeah, probably. It probably will, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing a different kind of Star Wars movie. So, although, for the most part, Rogue One is not about Jedi or anything like that. And yes, there is one brief, quick scene with Vader doing his thing, but it's not a primary part. But yes, I do believe that Solo will be the first film to not have lightsabers, and I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. Chris Martin writes, will you be doing a 2018 most anticipated of 2018? Yes. Yes. Between now and New Year's Day, I have a couple. I'll have my top 10 of 2017, and I will have my top 10 most anticipated of 2018. Those videos are coming. Whale Benali writes, Merry Christmas, John. Thank you so much, Whale. I really appreciate that. Ann Campea writes, put some pants on for once, John. Love you. First of all, I've told you many times, stop telling me how to live my life. She's in the other room resting right now. She's got the day off because it's Christmas Eve. Okay, anyway. Spencer Smothers writes, and by the way, Anne, why are you so cheap? Spencer Smothers writes, Merry Christmas, John. Love the show and watch every day. What's your favorite use of product placement in a movie? Mine is Barbasol in Jurassic Park. Oh, that was a good one. Again, this is one of those things I'd really have to think about it. I don't know, Krispy Kreme and Power Rangers, that's definitely not the number one, but it's just one of the ones I can pull off the top of my head right now. That's a question I'd have to sit down and think about. But yeah, there are some very definitive ones that stand. Reese's Pieces in E.T., that's an iconic one. Maybe that's the one. Reese's Pieces in E.T. might be the all-time greatest product placement ever in history of film, is that one. So maybe I'll go with that one. Chris Martin writes, could we still see... Wait, I thought I missed... You're in the Last Jedi. I'd love that. I already answered that one, Chris, so I don't think we would. It doesn't make sense to have a Force Ghost versus a living person. That doesn't make any sense to me, so I'm going to guess no. Besides, that movie is going to climax with Kylo versus Rey. That's going to be the big fight. That's going to be probably, I'm guessing, the lightsaber fight to end all lightsaber fights. I think they're going to bring in every top martial arts, swordplay expert in the world and train these people for months and months and months to give us like the best lightsaber duel in history. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think is going to happen. Dimsum05 writes, best trailer of all time. Again, that's something I'd have to think about. The Logan Johnny Cash one is certainly right up there. The first Batman versus Superman trailer was just astonishingly good. A number of the Transformer trailers have been sick, psychotic good. Again, if I sit down and think about it for about 15 minutes, I will be able to come up with better ones, but those are the ones that just bounce off the top of my head. NT30 says, can the Rush Hour 4 happen with Ratner's situation? Let's be honest, I don't think Rush Hour 4 was going to happen anyway. I know they were talking about it for like 2 years now. They've been talking about it. But honestly, let's be honest, I don't think that movie was happening anyway, regardless of Ratner's situation. So I think with or without Ratner's situation, I don't think that was a movie that was actually going to happen either way. Joseph Rotini writes, hey, John, any chance of using some of that extra Super Chat money to bring in people for commentaries? Maybe Logan, Justice League, and The Last Jedi. Merry Christmas, love the show. Well, I mean, the main thing right now, for me to actually be able to afford to live and pay my bills and all that kind of stuff, I've always been very open about this. What I really need is 1,000 Patreon supporters. We're at 650 now, which is more than I ever thought we would have. But if I can get to 1,000 Patreon supporters, I will have the money to hire a couple of people full-time. And, well, or at least maybe one full-time, one part-time. But I'd be able to actually start putting together a team. So I'm not doing all the technical things by myself. I'll be able to have maybe an on-camera person with me as well from time to time. I mean, I really always want the John Campea Show just to be me and you guys. But for other videos and things like that, so... encourage people to join my Patreon. I didn't do my commercial break today. I'll do that at the end of the show. Ben Raynor writes, most overrated Christmas movie for me, It's a Christmas Story. I thought I did that one already. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. William Seek writes, do you think to explain the X-Men not being in the MCU all along, could it be explained with Professor X wiping everybody's memory? Mind Stone used for that? It's a stretch. You're not the first person to ask that on the show. I think I've had like 2 other people ask that, and I'll say the same thing I said before. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I don't think that works. I'm sure they'll come up with something. But this whole thing that they just mind-wiped everybody, well, then what happens today? You mind-wiped everybody today. One mutant does something today. Now you got to mind-wipe the entire human race again. Then another mutant somewhere in the world does something publicly again tomorrow. Now tomorrow he's got to mind-wipe the whole world again. And he's got to do that every day for the last 30 years. So that's why I don't think that works on that level. But who knows? Maybe that is what they go with. And maybe they have some like way better idea. I'm not really sure. Again, I don't have a solution to it. I just know what the problem is, but I have no solution yet. Cameron Schofield writes, Jaws, Back to the Future, E.T. If you had to give up one, I would give up... Damn, I'd give up Back to the Future. That is not a knock on Back to the Future. But if you're going to say I have to drop either Jaws, Back to the Future, or E.T., I'll drop Back to the Future. If you ask me tomorrow, maybe I'll answer differently, but for now I'll say Back to the Future. Tough question, man. Tough question. Chris Martin writes, Lion King is my all-time favorite Disney movie. Cannot wait for Jon Favreau's take. Love the Jungle Book. Me too. Like, I initially thought, when the Jungle Book came out, people said, hey, what about Jon Favreau doing Lion King? I thought, well, I'm sure he's not just going to want to jump back and do the exact same thing. And lo and behold, he did, and I'm super excited that he did. I mean, I love Jungle Book. What Favreau did, and I was not expecting a whole hell of a lot from it, but what Favreau was able to accomplish with that movie was stellar. Just stellar. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does next, and especially with Lion King, because Lion King is my all-time #1 favorite animated film of all time. And after seeing what Favreau did with Jungle Book, I can't wait to see what he's going to do with this. All right, Steven C20 writes, hey, John, love the show and all you do. Thank you so much, Steven. Will you ever do a top 10 superhero films in order? Is Man of Steel in the top 5 or around where I would like it to be? I love Man of Steel. I love Man of Steel too. I don't know if I'll ever do them in order. Because that just opens up it just opens up a whole, like, just rat's nest of arguing. So there's no point for me in doing that. I will say I don't think Man of Steel would be in my top 5. It's absolutely in my top 10. I don't know that it's in my top 5. Like, when you're talking about movies like Avengers, Dark Knight, Civil War, Logan, and these films of that nature... It's, I mean, Days of Future Past, when you're, Deadpool, it's tough to put it in the top 5. It's tough. So I'm not saying for sure it wouldn't be in my top 5. I'm just saying I doubt it would crack the top 5 for me. Chris Martin writes, if I can find him, Chris Martin writes, extremely excited for a Tarantino Star Trek. Well, I don't know how excited I am. I will say this, I'm dying with interest. I'm just dying with interest to see what kind of film would this be. Now, let's remember, this is not happening yet. All they've done is hired a writer. That doesn't mean the movie's going to happen. And even if the movie happens, it doesn't mean Tarantino's going to direct it. He's just said he would have an eye for directing it. He'd be looking at maybe directing it, but nothing has said that he would be directing it either. So we're still several major steps away from saying, I'm excited about Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek film, because we're still major steps away from that happening. It may not get past the script stage. And even if it does, it may not get by the revision stage. And even if it does, and they say, yeah, we want to make this movie, it may not be directed by Quentin Tarantino. So we still have major steps to go. But like everybody else, I'm fascinated to see what would happen if Tarantino did indeed direct a Star Trek film. That's curious. Charlie Zakari writes, is Bloodline a good intro to the Star Wars books? Yeah, it's not bad. I would start with Lost Stars, to be honest with you, because Lost Stars all focuses around things we're already very familiar with. It's a good launch pad. From Lost Stars, I would probably do Lords of the Sith. Lords of the Sith, to me, is the best of the new canon Star Wars books, by far. So there's that. Then I work in Bloodline and Tarkin, but I think Lost Stars is it's a nice entryway book. Then go right for the best one after that, which is Lords of the Sith, and then Bloodline and Tarkin. I think you'd be well to read them in that order. But really, any order is fine. That's just how I would recommend it. All right. Spiked E. Adam writes, Merry Christmas from your friends and fans from Niagara. Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I went to school in Niagara. I used to drive every day. I used to drive into Niagara College, and I went to school there for a couple of years. Really enjoyed it. I love the Niagara area. Actually, Ann and I, we're going to spend New Year's Eve. Ann and I have decided we're going to spend New Year's Eve in Niagara Falls, because Niagara Falls always puts on a great party for New Year's Eve. So we're going to go there, spend New Year's Eve in Niagara Falls. Will you be doing any meet and greet when you come home? Safe travels, my friend, and keep up the great work. I will decide that today. Honestly, here's my big worry about doing meet and greets anywhere. I don't have that many fans. I'm a schlub who does a show with a camera in a studio that I have made out of a spare bedroom. And my thing, here's my worry. I could announce tomorrow, I'm going to have a John Campea Show meet and greet in Burlington. So let's say it's closer for people in Toronto, not far for people from Hamilton, the Niagara area. I'm going to have a meet and greet in Burlington, Ontario at this restaurant, at an East Side Mario's in the bar area. I'm going to be hanging out there for 2 hours between this time and this time. Come down and say hi. And like nobody shows up or 2 people show up. That's what I'm most afraid of. I will think about it for the rest of the day. And if I do decide to do that, I will come up. I'll mention something. I'll come up with something. All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. Next one comes to us from Javier Barrera 90, who writes, will you like Marvel to move first on the X-Men or Fantastic Four? I'd like them to take their time. That's what I want them to do. I'm fine if we don't get either, but maybe Fantastic Four. I think that's the one that needs the most attention. But then again, what would probably be more successful for them is X-Men, so maybe they'll probably move on that. But if it was up to me as a fan, not as a business decision, as a business decision, you go with X-Men first. As a fan, I'll say Fantastic Four. Darth Wayne 97 writes, are you excited for the Chaney movie with Christian Bale? Yeah, again, excited is too strong of a word, but I am very curious to see it. I mean, first of all, it's Christian Bale, who always gives a great performance. Dick Cheney's a really interesting figure, so that's going to be interesting to see as well. So we'll go from there. All right, guys, last time, please, no more super chats, please. This is it. Asian Boy writes, sick of the MCU formula. The humor weakens dramatic tension and prevents emotional investment. Every film feels like an AD plus a reference for the next without risks. Logan was great because there's risks. Well, I mean, that's great, Asian Boy. That's your opinion, and that's great. You're entitled to your opinion. You watch them, and that's how they strike you. However, the vast majority of the rest of us disagree with you. The humor works. The humor did not take away from the dramatic tension. There are big stakes. I mean, look, by the way, guys, I'm about to drop some spoilers for Thor Ragnarok. So if you have not seen Thor Ragnarok, you might want to tune out now. But don't tell me there's no stakes in Thor Ragnarok, man. Asgard was destroyed. Odin dies. The Warriors 3 die. So, I mean, Thor himself loses Mjolnir, and he loses his eye. Look me in the face again and tell me there's no stakes. in Thor Ragnarok. Yes, it's loaded with humor, great entertaining humor that people loved, which is why a damn Thor movie made more at the box office than Justice League, for heaven's sakes. But, so people loved it. They loved it. I mean, that's cool, though, for you. For you. That's just because I think it one way doesn't mean you shouldn't think it your way. But I will challenge you, though, when you say no stakes. I don't know how the stakes get much higher. I really don't. There were dire consequences from that film. Like, again, I mean, not the least of which is the loss of his hammer, the loss of his eye, Odin dying, Asgard being destroyed. These are all major, major consequences and like ramifications of things in the story. Let's not pretend that there were no stakes or no ramifications or no consequences to that movie. There were tons. Just because you weren't able to see through the humor doesn't mean the rest of us weren't, because I did. But if you didn't, that was your experience with it. God bless you for having that experience with it. I'm sure there's a few movies that you love that I dislike a lot that you think I'm crazy for disliking. And that's the fun thing about being a film fan, dude, is we can have these different opinions about the movies and still be friends and talk about movies together. That's awesome. All right, thanks a lot for sharing that. I can't think of a good username. Says, Merry Christmas, my Canadian cousin from the UK. Well, Merry Christmas to you and the Queen and everybody else back there. And the final question today. Adimus95 writes, Merry Christmas. John, one of my favorite movies is the original From Dusk Till Dawn, and wondering whether the franchise will be revisited. Well, didn't they do a TV series? I'm almost positive they did a TV series of it on the Del Rey network, which is Robert Rodriguez's television network. I thought for sure they did a series in that. So whether it'll come back to theater, I don't think so. But you never know. Hollywood's always looking for properties to come back and revisit. All right, guys, that was like an hour and 20 minutes Christmas Eve special when I thought it would be like 20 minutes of a Christmas Eve special. Thanks so much for joining me. Guys, just for a second here. This is the last episode of the show that I'm going to be doing from home for the next 3 weeks. For the next week and a half, I'm going to be doing the show from the Campea Ranch in Canada. Then for about a week or a week and a half after that, I'm going to be doing it from Rhode Island. Because that's where Anne's work is. So I'm going to travel with her there because she's got to go there to work. And I thought, you know, I'll come with you and I'll hang out with you. And I'll just do the show from a hotel room or something for a week. But I did want to say in this last show before Christmas morning, thank you to all of you guys who made one of the most terrifying leaps I've ever taken in my life, which was leaving the corporate jobs and coming to do something on my own. And you guys are the ones who made it possible. You make it possible by watching the shows and participating. You make it possible by engaging in the conversations. You make it possible by being Patreon supporters, especially those of you who are Patreon supporters. You financially make this possible so I can financially spend 10 hours of my day putting graphics together and doing research and watching the films I need to watch and doing the shows and editing everything and blah, 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 blah. You make it financially possible. Those... Pardon me, those of you guys who send in super chats has been a great thing. That's been the thing that's taken me over the hump to not just being able to live, but actually pay all my bills and like actually earn a living. Was you guys who are, you know, who put in super chats. Your support is amazing. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for making the scariest move I've ever made possible and making it pay off and making it worthwhile. And I wish Anne is probably passed out right now because we were up all night. But I know Anne and I both want to extend to all of you guys a very Merry Christmas, a wonderful holiday season. May you guys have just whatever it is that you picture in your head as the best way to spend the holiday season. I hope that happens for you guys. I'm so excited about all the great stuff we're going to do between now and the end of the year and a great 2018. But I mean, I just don't have the words to express how much I am grateful to all of you for making this a thing. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Charlie, for sending in that last super chat there. I appreciate you all so much. May you guys have a great, wonderful day. Have a wonderful holiday season. And I'm still making videos, folks. I'm still making videos all throughout the rest of the year. But thanks for joining me. This will be it for the last John Campea Show from this studio for the next couple of weeks. I, of course, will be back anyway, just not from this studio for the next few weeks. So thanks a lot, guys. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.